what was the first conspiracy theory that the Pharisees, the officials, were selling at that time? Was that, oh, they stole his body, they're hiding it or whatever. That was the first excuse, because they didn't want to confront anything more than that. And you see that today in a lot of the things, that they make excuses for things they don't want to confront. But something as big as that, but that's what all faith is built on. I mean, we have to believe that the tomb was empty, and that he rose from the dead. I mean, that's what it's all based on. That's what all faith is based on. That he was so great and so powerful that he could do something that's incomprehensible, right? He could resurrect himself. So, of course, I believe that, and I think that a lot of the things they talk about, and you talk about it all the time, the generation from the time Israel becomes a state, and we're looking for the Antichrist and all that. But certainly, we see the state of the world and how everything's collapsing everywhere. If this isn't end times, I don't know what would be, because I don't think it can sustain itself if it wasn't the end of times coming up. I don't know how it could continue on fumes like this, because everything is collapsing, and it's I don't know. Again, if it's not, then I don't know what it is, but it certainly looks to me like it's what the Bible talks about.
Well, it's daunting, like you hear people talking now, and I say it in conversation too. We're all human, and even though God has given us faith, in the moments where I feel my flesh or I feel weakness, I say to myself, man, the only thing left is God. And then I stop and listen to myself, and I think sometimes, yeah, well, it's the only thing left because we've tried everything else, and this is where we were supposed to be. So I think he's been kind of patient with us.
Yeah, I think
well, those lines, like people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly a lot of us have said, I mean, who are we to question God? We say, what are you waiting for? I mean, how bad? I mean, you and I have talked about that. It's like we talked about, how bad could Sodom and Gomorrah have been? I don't know. I mean, could it have been?
I think they look over at us through the portals of time and say, those people are sick.
I mean, we know that I don't think they had the technology to have, transgender surgery and things like that. I mean, did they have 57 genders or whatever? Maybe. Were they having mothers that were looking at their little boys when they're 3 and 4 years old and say, you should be a girl, and convincing them? I don't know. Maybe they were. I mean, I have no idea what was going on with Sodom and Gomorrah. They just kind of allude to, a lot of sex going on, a lot of, perverted sex, but we certainly have that. But we've gone beyond that. When you step into this transgender world, and obviously I talk about that a lot, and that gets me in trouble quite a bit too. But I'm sorry, you've lost me. When you're saying men can have babies, and that's why, I still have a lot of leftist views, as you know. But I can't possibly have a discussion with somebody who's not only telling me that men can have babies, but is screaming about science while saying it, and threatening doctors and professors at college with losing their jobs if they don't admit it. It's almost incomprehensible.
Well, I agree. And it's just, if you play that out as an agenda that someone has formulated, and this is part of some kind of plan, you have to question what the plan is. But it's funny, this fellow, Steve Roberts, who's producing here, he's pretty sharp, and he had me listening into a scientist the other night. And it was funny, the scientist said something that you've said before on your shows, and you can talk about it now again. E equals MC squared, you always said made no sense to you. And it was funny because you're agreeing with great minds, like the scientist who Steve brought up was saying also that, and he was blowing my mind talking about gravity being like they have no way that they can prove how gravity goes. So if you want to talk about that a little, I thought that was fascinating that he said that, and that was something that had occurred to you. It was something I hadn't thought about until you mentioned it.
Say, Bob.
So if you want to talk about that.
Bob.
Yes.
Bring up a website for Don's books first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Don. I can't believe that. I know that you don't care whether we do this or not, but we're going to put up a website for your books here. So before you answer my scientific question, please tell us where the hidden history and also the on borrowed fame. And I hear you have another book coming out with a cohort. Like, what's going on with all this business?
I did hear that. Yeah, this guy Bob Wilson. Now we're working on a book about the whole Paul is dead phenomenon of the Beatles. As you know, well, Bob is an expert on the Beatles. I'm a huge Beatles fan. Like the rest, I've certainly listened to enough of their music and bought enough of their music over the years. I find them fascinating. So that'll be coming out hopefully soon. We have some celebrities that are participating and answering questions and stuff. So look for that down the road. I'm sure Bob will have lots more information as that develops. But we've got a lot of a lot of material. We just have to put it together. But I don't think it's going to take that long. But my website is donaldjeffries.media. It's one-stop shop. I mean, you can find everything you need to know about me there. My videos are there from my shows. There's links to my books. There's links to my Substack. I write regularly on Substack, and it's called I Protest, which is the same name as my weekly show on rockfin.com, I Protest. And but you can get to all of it there at donaldjeffries.media. So if you go there, you'll find out all you need to know about me. But as far as I say, yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's saying the same things. I might not be approaching it from the same perspective he is, but this is why I have trouble with modern science, because they're very dogmatic, and in many ways they're the most devout religious people in the world, and they're worshiping a religion that says it has no God, or I don't know what the God is in science, but I mean, basically sometimes they have Mother Nature, which is kind of like a lame replacement for God, who people don't want to admit there's a God. Mother Nature, what is Mother Nature? What does it have an intelligence? What sense does that make? But it's the same thing with evolution. And more people, and I've been on board, Bob, I've never believed in evolution. And so now more and more people are coming around to my way of thinking. But that was, not even from a religious point of view. It makes no sense. Yeah, there's tons of missing links. There's they just tell you what they're missing. But I mean, evolution is disproved by the fact that they claim life came out of the sea, the primordial ooze, and that's one of those expressions they use to try to cow people. The primordial ooze, man, that sounds impressive. What does that even mean? But the idea is that life originated in the sea, and at some point they decided to stop having gills and growing lungs and walk out of the sea. Well, again, how does this process happen? Because obviously tons of life forms stayed in the sea. So who determined that they were, I mean, if you think about it, it's madness. It really is. Because at what point, let's say you're a fish and you have a school of fish, but they're being born with lungs. I mean, does a mother instantly know to push them to the surface? I mean, it's insane. It really is. It's an absolute. The theory makes no sense. And then you get to the point where we supposedly evolved from the apes, but the apes still exist. So again, did just some people get to become human and some didn't? I mean, the whole thing is pointless. And all you need to know about that is Darwin, who came up with the theory, rejected it ultimately before he died, and he said, that he didn't believe his own theory. So, but again, modern science is based on that. And you talked about gravity. Again, gravity, they can't define what it is. What kind of force do you have that can keep these incredible bodies of water from flying off into space, but they can't hold down a butterfly or a bird? It is explained, but that's their answer to everything. And I've had people try to answer that, and it's ridiculous. But most people don't go there. So that's what I think makes me different. If people listen to me, and the people that respond to me are
where can people listen to you? Be clear where your shows air.
Well, right now, because the Donald Jeffries show is on a hiatus until, as you know, until we find a new home for it. But I Protest has been airing on Fridays for quite a while, from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Rockfin.com, ROKFIN, rockfin.com. It's a free speech platform like Substack is, where I write. That's where the easiest place to find me. It also airs live streams on my social media, but YouTube is always banning me and putting strikes against me. So, and that's where I get the most people streaming on my social media. So you can check that, but rockfin.com is the easiest place to find me. We have provocative guests there, as you know, and we have people call-ins and chat room and all that. So it's a fun show.
Hey, Don.
I'm going to shock you. Oh, I'm sorry, Don. There's our producer, Steve. Steve, what is it? Yeah. What information are you bringing us from the God Spot?
Just 2 quick comments. Number one is, do you know what a false assumption is?
I think so. Sure. I mean,
Okay, but anyways, what a false assumption is, I could bring up the Google, the Wikipedia definition of it. It says, false assumption is an incorrect proposition that forms the basis of an argument or syllogism. There are 9 false assumptions that one has to disregard to make the carbon-14 dating process work. What that basically means is science does not know how old anything is.
Exactly. Yes, I'm with you. And and that's why I had Ken Hopen on my show a while back. And I get ridiculed for that because I know I know what people think of, oh, that's crazy. You're a young earth theorist. Like, I don't think we know very much at all, to be honest with you. And you're right. The carbon dating, I don't know to the point where, where it's 9 false assumptions, but I've always thought that, this is very difficult. That again, I see what science does in the present world, and I'm not real impressed with it. So I can't believe that they can determine that something is 3 billion years old or something like that. I really question the dating in that, and so I'm with you. And but if you look at most of the platforms that our modern scientific world is built on, it's all full of holes. Same thing with astronomy. How long did they say that? They used to say Pluto is a planet. I think it's lost its status as a planet, hasn't? I don't know. That's why it was really small for a long time, and now it's not. Or is that Mercury? I get them mixed up. But Pluto is a pinpoint of light on the most powerful telescope in the world, and yet for decades they've told us what's in its atmosphere. I don't know what scientific instrument do you have that you can tell, and so I question those things. Most people don't, and so yeah, a lot of times it turns people off right away. But even if I wasn't, not that I'm really religious, but I'm a strong believer. But even if I wasn't, I would question science on the basis because a lot of it's irrational and it's full of false assumptions, as you call them.
Well, I have to stun you here. I believe in evolution.
Really?
I believe evolution is an ever-changing story that was concocted to try to discredit our creator by a bunch of pseudoscientists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's evolving, isn't it? And it has to evolve. And that's what that's why I said it's a spiritual battle. All of this is basically it's to try to take God out of the equation and try to take the special nature of life. And that's why we get into a pro-life versus pro-death. And I wrote something recently on Substack about our death culture, about being pro-life, fighting for life in a death culture. It's not easy to do because everything about our culture celebrates death, from pulling the plug on somebody to being fans of euthanasia to abortion, capital punishment, whatever. We celebrate death. I think we should celebrate life, that all life is sacred. But if you believe that we're never going to be judged and we're here we don't know why we're here. You're here. What is it? You're here and you die, and that's it. There's no meaning to it. There's nothing beyond. If you believe that, then it really doesn't matter what you do here, does it? Why wouldn't you just go and rape and pillage to your heart's content? You'll have nothing to answer for, and your life is meaningless beyond that. You might as well have as much fun as you can, right? I mean, that's what the way I would look at it. But and maybe some of these people do because they don't think you're going to be held accountable. But it's the special nature of it. So if you think this is all random and things have been flying around and the beautiful artwork on box turtles and things like that, that's all just because of evolution, this magical thing of evolution, and it's not because of a creator that has powers beyond anyone's comprehension. They created all of us in his image. And it has a set of concepts we're supposed to live by, which we all fail at, to some degree, the best of us. But if it's not that, if it's just a big nothing, then and that's what they're promoting. That's essentially what it is. They're telling you nothing matters, and that's how they can promote something like, mutilating a little boy